What's up everyone, I'm MicOne, you're awesome, and welcome to the third episode of Arma 3 BCT. In this series, I'll be presenting the basic tactics and techniques utilized by the Arma 3 realism unit Dog Company. In this episode, we'll be going over individual movement and bounding. Let's start with individual movement under fire. There are three individual movement techniques used when moving under fire: high crawl, low crawl, and rush. Before moving, the soldier must first select the next spot to move, and the best possible route to get to that spot. In order to assist with this, the soldier must search the terrain to his front for features that provide cover or concealment. Cover provides protection from bullets or fragmentation, as well as conceals the soldier from enemy observation. Concealment is anything that will hide you from enemy observation, but does not protect you from enemy fire. Now onto the actual movements themselves. Let's start with the high crawl. The high crawl can be interpreted as fast movement when in the prone position. The high crawl is used when the route provides cover and concealment, poor visibility reduces enemy observation, and speed is required to get in position. Next is the low crawl. The low crawl can be interpreted as slow movement when in the prone position. The low crawl is used when the route provides cover or concealment less than 1 foot high, visibility provides the enemy good observation, and speed is not required as a result. Next, let's move on to the rush. Rushing can be interpreted as sprinting or dashing for a small period of time. The rush is selected when there's no cover or concealment along your route, and you are briefly exposed to enemy fire. You should select your next position and the route getting to it based on the least exposure to enemy fire, and no requirement to move in front of any other members of your element in order to get there. Remember that individual movement techniques require the team to have a communication plan worked out and clearly understood. Under no circumstances should an individual be moving without cover from the other, but more on this later. Let's move on to individual movement techniques when not under fire. Individual movement techniques are also essential for when a soldier's element is not under contact. As with the previously discussed movement techniques, a soldier has to search the terrain in front of him for features that provide cover or concealment. The regular spacing distance between individual members is 10 meters. Spacing may be altered based on the formation type, terrain, and visibility to the enemy. The first individual movement technique when not under fire is walking. Now there are two types of walking pace, divided into walking and weapons at the ready. Each signifies the pace and stance you should be using. Walking indicates slow movement with weapons lowered. Weapons at the ready indicates slow movement with weapons up. Next, let's move to running. There are two types of running pace, divided into jogging and tactical pacing. Jogging indicates fast movement with weapons ready, but not up. Tactical pacing indicates fast movement with weapons up. And finally, there's sprinting. Sprinting indicates the fastest movement speed possible. Maintaining gear and loadout discipline ensures that soldiers conserve stamina. The more gear you carry, the faster your character will tire, meaning the slower he will ultimately move. When taking gear, soldiers acquire an assigned standard loadout, with reasonable amounts of ammunition and equipment. As a side note, it's also important to employ the practice of taking a knee. Taking a knee is a common practice when the element is shortly halted or is establishing a patrol base. Taking a knee ensures the soldier regains stamina, lowers his profile, and is reminded to maintain his assigned sector. Next, let's move on to bounding. Dog Company utilizes three types of bounding maneuvers. The first is called successive bounding. Successive bounding occurs when one element is in Overwatch whilst another moves. Once the movement element stops, they now become the Overwatch element, while the trailing element bounds onto or adjacent to their position. The maneuver then repeats itself until the target location is reached. The next type of bounding is called alternate bounding. Alternate bounding occurs when one element is in Overwatch whilst the other one moves. Once the movement element stops, they now become the Overwatch element, while the trailing element bounds to a position beyond the Overwatch element. This maneuver repeats until the teams leapfrog to their final destination. And the third type of bounding is called bounding Overwatch. Bounding Overwatch occurs when one element is in Overwatch while another one moves. The Overwatch element maintains security for the moving element for the entirety of the bound. Once the movement element has completed the bound, they take up cover and watch as the trailing element performs their bound. As a subsidiary to this, it's also important to bring up Traveling Overwatch. Traveling Overwatch is when the Overwatch element is also moving with the leading element. The Overwatch element travels to the rear, and commonly with increased spacing between the two elements of around 30 meters. Well, that wraps up this episode of Arma 3 BCT. Join us for the next episode where we'll be going over contact reports, the ace rep, and reaction to contact. Until next time, I'm MicOne, and you're awesome.